Okay, so for this month's story, we are going to be reading the story of my first main stage. So I have a very extensive theater acting background, and this is going to give you some insight into it. Part one, my theater background before UVIC. I often wonder what my life would have been like if I hadn't been born with such garbage eyesight. Would I have still developed my strong kinesthetic senses at such a young age? Would people have stopped accusing me of being shy or stuck up? Would I have ever have started acting in the first place? If you didn't know me growing up, you probably had no idea I have professional acting experience, like a lot of it. I started talking early and was very articulate from a very young age, leading people to believe that I was a lot older than I actually was, despite being a very small child for my age. And when I started reading at a young age, my mom started running scripts with me. When it became clear that I could memorize short scripts fairly easily, she made the decision to enroll me in community theater. I grew up in a very small farming community that tourists passed through on their way to Cultus Lake, a booming summer vacation spot that was super popular with European travelers as well as city folk from Vancouver. During the summer, I performed in several dinner theater productions at Cultus Lake, and one summer I caught the eye of a local television producer. Before long, I was appearing in our little cable TV station in addition to stage productions. I even was on two game shows, similar to Jeopardy, but for kids, once as a host and once as a participant. I didn't win, but I had a lot of fun doing it. The whole point of all of it was this idea. Apparently, the adults in my life decided that I was shy and that was something that needed to be corrected. But I don't remember being shy as a child. I remember making friends and getting along with the kids I met quite easily. What is more apparent to me as an adult looking back on it and based on photographs from my younger years was that I often didn't make eye contact with people. But that wasn't because I was shy. It was because I couldn't see where their eyes were. My garbage eyesight did impact the other actors I performed with on occasion. Some of them complained to directors that it was difficult to connect with me on stage because I wouldn't look directly at them. So I learned techniques to compensate, just like I did in other areas of my life, and no one was the wiser, or so I thought. But it's safe to say that my best performances were almost always soliloquies. In addition to community theater, I was also in the drama club at my elementary school and was in all of the school plays. Of all of the productions we did, I especially remember how much I loved our production of Alice in Wonderland, where I got to play the Mad Hatter. I can still, to this day, recite all the lines from the Mad Tea Party scene, just like some echolalic weirdo. When I started secondary school, drama was one of the few electives I was allowed to take to offset the heavy academic load I was carrying, since my mom worked her magic to get me into Sardis Secondary for grade 8 instead of attending Vetter Junior High School like all the other kids I grew up with in Yarrow, so that I could be in their gifted program. It was made clear to me that my focus was to be on academics and that any elective I took could not compete with my older brothers, who also went to Sardis, lest I outshine him in areas he was supposed to excel in. In retrospect, it might have been better to put my older brother in drama, since he was legit shy and didn't make friends easily, but he got art and I got drama. Most of my drama and acting classes at Sardis were taught by the same dude, Mr. Wagner, and I had mixed feelings about him. He definitely had his favorites, and I wasn't one of them, despite my talent, enthusiastic attitude, and strong work ethic. I remember one assignment where we had to pick out a popular song and act out the lyrics. We had the choice of whether to act solo or with others. I remember one dude did Stairway to Heaven, narrating it as a story about the lady in the lyrics. He basically just did spoken word as a very popular, very attractive girl pretended to be that lady. Mr. Wagner loved it because he was an old hippie who loved Led Zeppelin and apparently staring at Jody, not because the performance was really any good. By that point, I had wanted to try my hand not just at acting, but at directing. I'd been down to visit my friend Ashley in Seattle, and every time I got to visit her, we would watch a lot of TV together, since I didn't really get to watch much TV at home. MTV was one of our favorite channels to watch, given how much we both loved music. Michael Jackson's video for Beat It had just been released, and I loved it. It reminded me so much of West Side Story, which I'd been in the season before, in a summer production of it. I had the album, Thriller, everybody did, and we played it over and over, writing down the lyrics until we were sure we had them correct. I gathered up several other kids from class, and we did Beat It as an ensemble production. I worked hard on that piece, coordinating all the actors on stage, blocking it, making sure everybody knew their lines, and we were quite proud of the result. And I remember that Mr. Wagner didn't like it, in part because he didn't think Michael Jackson was as iconic as Led Zeppelin, which I thought was very strange, given that I had watched Michael Jackson perform my entire life, both live and on TV, since he himself was a little kid performing with the Jackson 5. But instead of questioning the adult, I doubted myself and my abilities instead and felt a great deal of shame over it. We did a lot of weird skit work in Mr. Wagner's classes. I remember a bunch of them being from a collection called After Liverpool, which seemed more like second-rate Monty Python than anything else. But Mr. Wagner seemed very taken with it. Ashley and I had just watched a Monty Python marathon on my last visit, and I leaned heavily into that influence. That got Mr. Wagner's attention. I basically just mimicked one of the characters I had seen, and I don't know if Mr. Wagner even picked up on that, who I was mimicking, but he loved it and started casting me in more weird and unusual roles. A soothsayer, an elderly woman, a knight in full armor returning from battle. I got to flex my acting chops and expand beyond just playing the cheeky little kid roles that I usually got cast in for community theater. And it became clear that I was a very talented actress by this point, in terms of my ability to become people who were completely unlike me. Yet when it came to secondary school play main stages, politics took precedence over talent. We did the musical Cheaper by the Dozen one year, and because I could sing and had sung on TV and in other plays in both German and French, which this particular play demanded, in addition to singing in English, I expected to get cast in one of the leads. I was in grade 11 by this point, and I had several years of drama and acting classes under my belt at Sardis. I'd won the Best Actress trophies in both grades 9 and 10, and I was at the same age at the lead character kid at the time, so it seemed like a no-brainer. Only I wasn't cast as the lead. Instead, a girl who wasn't even taking drama classes at the time, who wasn't even a particularly good actress, got cast as Anne. And I got cast as some bit part in the ensemble, like wallpaper. I was mad. I did the bare minimum for that production and couldn't wait for that run to be over. So I learned about the politics of being a performer at a young age, that people get cast because of who their parents are, whether you're in high school or in Hollywood. But that didn't deter me. I continued to take theater classes through grade 12, and I competed with our team in provincial theater competitions. By this time, actors from the neighboring junior high had joined us for the last 2 years of secondary school at Sardis, and I met Jennifer, who viewed herself as my competition those last 2 years at Sardis. When we were in grade 11, we competed together in our offering, a play called Us and Them, for an Upper Fraser Valley secondary school theater competition. Jennifer played the recorder, and I played one of the characters that survives until the end of the play. Although we didn't win that competition, Jennifer did win a trophy for her performance. And once she did, she wouldn't stop crowing about it. As our final assignment in grade 12, Mr. Wagner decided to pit us directly against each other by casting us in the same role, a one-woman play called Glass Houses. In addition to the challenge of being the only person on stage for the entire play, there is also no set. The play takes place on a blank stage, and the actress needs to make it clear to the audience that she lives in a glass house. So miming the house itself was also another challenge. And if you're meta like me, you also make it seem like it's plausible that all of that's what's going on stage also just may be going on in the woman's head. I went all in on that role in terms of character development. I modeled her after two primary influences: the automatons in the movie Stepford Wives, and those overly cheerful young mom types that you would see on Lysol cleaning spray commercials. I had previously mimed The Night Before Christmas with my good friend Sherry at our Christmas assembly for the winter before, and my miming game was tight and on point. And I made the artistic decision to have the glass house close in on her as the play progressed. Another prescient moment, reminiscent now of the movie Boxing Helena, which would come out years later in 1993. We both performed the role on opposite blocks, and many of our teachers and fellow students saw both performances. I chose not to watch Jennifer do hers, and she chose not to watch me do mine. But I'd heard through the grapevine that it was crystal clear who the standout was in this performance. That was my breakthrough role. For each performance, my character has a mental breakdown on stage, slowly unraveling from being a cheerful, chipper young housewife happily cleaning her house to a sobbing mess, clutching herself and rocking in a fetal position. It was both mentally and physically exhausting to go through it for each and every performance, but I was determined to make a strong impression. Of course, I could cry on cue. All I had to do was remember any of the many shitty things people had already done to me, to other people, and to the planet up to that point, and the waterworks would flow easily. But because that was so different from how I presented from day to day, it really took people aback. My English lit teacher took me aside after the performance she saw and asked me if I was okay. I had touched off something inside her that made her really concerned for my welfare. I just smiled at her. "No, Miss Stebson," I said. "I was just acting." I was sitting beside my frenemy Jennifer during our last school assembly in 1986, when awards and scholarships were being announced. Jennifer had won the Best Actress trophy in grade 11, and because she was the only one recognized from our previous competition efforts, and because she also did a good rendition of Glass Houses, she was convinced that she would win again. So she just smiled at me condescendingly as the awards were announced and people were called up to receive them. "I guess we're going to find out who the Best Actress really is," she said to me. "I guess we are," I say back. When my name is announced, I learned that I not only won the trophy, but also an acting scholarship that would pay for part of my first year university tuition. Jennifer looked utterly shocked and immediately says to me, "It's only because Mr. Wagner saw you running lines at the mall." I didn't say a word back to her. I just walked to the stage, collected my trophy, and briefly said, "I'd like to thank the Academy. Oh, and Jennifer Bannister for inspiring me and always encouraging me to work harder." That got a laugh because our rivalry was no secret. Later that day, she signed my grade 12 yearbook. I guess we know who the Best Actress really is. To this day, I'm not sure if she meant that sarcastically or not, and I didn't really care because we were never really friends anyway. Jennifer went on to do the same community theater I had done as a child at Cultus Lake. I went on and signed with a Vancouver-based agency when I was 17, did a ton of modeling and a bit of TV, and then moved to Victoria to attend theater school at UVIC.